Mali's new revolutionary government in Africa is rewriting history and achieving true independence for their people by slamming the door on the foreign transnational mining corporation.
Guys, have you ever noticed how much the news about Africa has changed, especially from the times of Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, up to now? Things have been changing, guys, and for a very long time, for decades, the world has always talked about Africa like it was a place that always needed help. But guys, as we speak, something big is happening because African countries are standing up. They are making their own choices, or rather, we are making our own choices. And honestly speaking, it's shocking the rest of the world. In today's video, we are going to talk about why Africa is finally taking the lead and why people are so surprised, so shocked by it. But before that, let's listen to some opinions, reactions about this independence topic and development, and then I'll come back and do more analysis because we have to start from the history so that you may understand. So let's jump in, watch, and then I'll be back.
Ethiopia is the mother of African independence. Ethiopia, as the only uncolonized nation, stood firm with her brothers and sisters to ensure that the African people were free to determine their own destiny. So for all of us on the continent, Ethiopia is our mother. And as we all know, if the mother is not at peace, neither can the family be at peace. Of our solidarity in that journey and our eagerness and commitment to see a peaceful and stable Ethiopia and ultimately a peaceful, stable and prosperous Africa. May God's blessings be with you and the people of Ethiopia as you embark on your journey. May God bless you all. Asanteni sana. Thank you.
So I strongly believe that Africa keeps swapping colonizers. Many countries in Africa claim independence, but there's little to no independence. This phenomenon is sometimes called neocolonialism. Here's how it happens. African leaders often struggle to act independently because of pressure from external global powers. Some leaders are propped up by foreign governments to maintain their influence. For example, France historically backed rulers in Francophone Africa who protected French business interests. Similarly, in the US and UK have also supported leaders who align with Western policies, even if they have poor human rights records. In contrast, when leaders try to move away from Western influence, they often face resistance. When Libya's Gaddafi pushed for united African currency and economic independence from the West, he was overthrown in a NATO-backed intervention in 2011. Some argue that this was less about human rights and more about maintaining Western control over Africa's economic direction. Same can be said for Patrice Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah, Silavos Olympio, Steve Biko, Chris Hani, Laurent Desire Kabila, and also Thomas Sankara. It doesn't take a genius to realize that there is a pattern. Leaders who push for true independence, economic self-sufficiency, Pan-Africanism, or reject Western economic models often face violent ends. Obviously, while each case it has its own context, the involvement, direct or indirect, of Western powers in suppressing Africa is undeniable in several of these cases. Many African countries still rely on foreign military support, often as a way to maintain internal stability. France, for instance, had military bases all across West Africa and intervened frequently under the guise of fighting terrorism, such as Mali and Burkina Faso. However, their presence was often seen as neo-colonial control, leading to anti-French protests and recent military coups that pushed France out. Meanwhile, new powers like Russia's Wagner Group have stepped in. Countries like Central African Republic and Mali, Wagner provides military training and security services in exchange for minor rights and political influence. The US has a growing number of military bases across Africa, while China has its first official overseas base in Djibouti. Rather than fostering true security, these military interventions often fuel instability. Some governments use foreign-backed forces to suppress opposition, whilst conflicts over resources are influenced by external actors looking to secure global interests. Africa becomes a battleground for global rivalries, just like during the Cold War when US and the USSR backed opposing sides in African civil wars. Instead of Instead of traditional colonialism with direct rule, African nations now experience a revolving door of external influences. First it was Europe, then the US during the Cold War. Now China, Russia, Turkey, and Gulf states are also making their moves. Until African nations gain full economic and political self-sufficiency, this pattern is likely to continue. So, for Africa to break free from the cycle of external control, it needs a combination of strong leadership, economic transformation, and regional unity. Here are some key steps that could actually help. Africa's biggest weakness is its reliance on exporting raw materials and importing finished goods. To gain true independence, countries must invest in local industries and process their own resources rather than sending them abroad. So, instead of exporting cocoa to Europe, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire should just develop their own local chocolate industries. Oil-rich countries or nations like Nigeria should refine their own petroleum rather than import fuel. You know, African nations trade more with Europe and China than than each other. You know, the African Continental Free Trade Area aims to change this by creating a unified market, which could reduce their dependency on foreign trade partners. Rwanda is focusing on local production of pharmaceuticals and technology, reducing its reliance on Western imports, reducing foreign military dependence. Many African governments still rely on foreign military forces like France, US, and Russia's Wagner Group just to maintain power, but this always comes at a cost. Countries like Djibouti, which hosts US, French, and Chinese bases, could gradually reduce their reliance on external forces. Instead of foreign interventions, Africa needs to have its own peacekeeping and conflict resolution mechanisms. For example, Mali recently expelled French troops and is attempting to build its own military strength. However, replacing one foreign power with another is not the right solution. True independence means self-reliance, not just swapping external allies. It's political and leadership accountability. Wow, this one is really what's lacking the most. Foreign powers often manipulate African politics by supporting leaders who serve their interests. To resist this, we need stronger democratic institutions. If leaders are accountable to their people rather than foreign governments, they are less likely to sell out international interests. We need educated and active citizenry. A politically aware population that demands accountability can resist leaders who act as puppets of foreign interests. Example, in recent years, countries like Senegal and Burkina Faso have seen youth-led protests against leaders seen as too close to their former colonial powers. This kind of political awareness is key. Breaking the cycle of swapping colonizers is going to take a combination of economic independence, military self-reliance, accountable leadership, regional unity, and smart global diplomacy. It won't happen overnight, but if African nations take control of their own destinies, they can finally move from being exploited to being global power players.
But it's because of
together then it started.
but you know we the reason why the whole Africa is free and got the independence.
That's not true.
We were one of the main leaders that was pushing that front line. Sekou Touré was pushing the line and say, "Yo, we rather die poor than be slaves."
Yeah, he said that. Not Liberia actually.
Yeah, he did.
Liberia was the first person, the first country to get independence.
I think they said that they never went through. Anyway, look.
You're right. They never
I'm saying,
went through that shit.
so like Guinea always had a backbone, and plus we got water, and plus we got good air, and plus on top of that, no, let me not say on plus on top of it. On the other side, you guys live on desert. You guys are primitive. You guys don't have food. You guys live outside. Wait. You do have food.
So how is people money surviving? Let me ask you that.
My nigga, they borrow.
Y'all be begging.
Nigga, they borrow.
Y'all be begging for everything.
And niggas in Mali,
money's not in debt.
not even money. Y'all niggas borrow sheep and goat. Man, y'all borrow that shit.
Y'all begging, nigga.
Exactly.
Y'all begging.
Y'all begging.
Mali is big though.
What's not true?
Only
Y'all
like
be begging.
one and a half part in Mali is desert.
You from which desert?
Tombouctou, around Tombouctou area.
No, what desert?
The Sahara Desert.
Okay, that's the whole Mali.
That's not true though.
Y'all get y'all. What do
That's
y'all?
not true. Wallah, that's not true. I'm telling you. When people say Mali Desert, they don't even know. When you get to Mali, bro,
The only tree y'all got is baobab.
Only that side is desert. The rest of the side is not desert, bro.
The only
hell?
listen. The only thing there that you guys have
That's like we saying Ivory Coast is whole Jigga. Even if we know the whole Ivory Coast is not Jigga.
We ain't talking about Ivory Coast, nigga. Don't bring our cousin in it. We talk about Mali.
Jigga.
We talk about Mali.
Cousins.
We talk about Mali.
Uh-huh.
So my thing is, you guys, even the water you guys get it from Niger, the Niger River.
Mali's new revolutionary government in Africa is rewriting history and achieving true independence for their people by slamming the door on the foreign transnational mining corporations that were stealing the riches of the people of Mali for decades. For years, Western-controlled governments in Mali used to allow these foreign companies like Canada's Barrick Gold or Australia's Resolute Mining to steal billions of dollars worth of gold and raw minerals for pennies on the dollar. They barely paid their taxes to the government of Mali and the people were left starving. But That era is now over. Mali's new government is not playing nice. Mali just decided to seize $245 million worth of gold from Canada's Barrick Mining over unpaid taxes. It makes sense. Australia's Resolute Mining just settled the score by paying $160 million in taxes to the government of Mali. Of course, 3 of their executives were arrested by the new government of Mali before that happened, but now things are even. Moving forward, Mali has told these foreign companies that if they want to continue doing business inside of their country, they're going to have to make the jobs a whole lot safer. They're going to have to follow new regulations, and they're going to have to pay their taxes in addition to 35% of all of the revenue generated being forced to stay in the country. So now it's up to these foreign companies. They can either pay up or get out. It's as simple as that.
I knew Africa had a bad PR, but I had no idea how bad it was until I started watching the reactions to the famous American streamer iShowSpeed's tour in Africa. And here is my take as an African living in Japan. So many people are shocked that Africa doesn't look like huts and poverty everywhere, and honestly, I'm more shocked that you're shocked. My flabbergasted. First of all, I would like to use this as a reminder that Africa as a continent is huge, and you can fit 3 United States in there. 3 of them. The other fact is that Africa is one of the fastest urbanizing continents in the world, and nearly 45% of the population live in urban areas. That's almost half of the continent living in urban areas. And this is urbanization defined by the United Nations, the World Bank, and all of this. Urbanization means cities and towns, not huts. And most of the cities where the majority of the population live in are capitals. And these were the center of activities in the previous empires. And then they became the center of slave trade, and also further in the colonial era became the center where natural resources were exported from. So of course, roads and networks were built around there, and the current modernization actually continued from those points. From a development point of view, you can see how this created a disparity between people living in the rural area and urban area. That's a whole other discussion, but it doesn't mean that the remaining population live in huts. To be frank with you, I'll tell the truth. I myself fell for that bad PR to the level that when I was hearing stories from my grandfather's point of view, he was a son of a big chief of a clan in a certain village, I was fantasizing about going to visit these places with huts and people dancing around with funny raffia clothings. Tell me why when I was 18, I took all my savings and went to all these villages to visit. I saw this instead. Bruh. And yes, I was disappointed. I was like, where are the animals at? Where are the huts at? Where are the people dancing at? So yeah, as an African, surprise, surprise, I also want to go visit the Masai Mara. I want to visit all the remote villages as well, where people live in huts and brown animals and have fruits for free. But there are just not that many of them anymore. Now that I live in Japan, when I go to the countryside, I feel like it's very similar to where I grew up in Congo, you know, the countryside of Congo. And I'm like, the only difference, the people are the same, the heart is almost the same. Maybe we speak different languages, but the infrastructure and, I don't know, access to electricity and water is there in both places. But in one, it's inconsistent, it's unreliable, there's a disparity, but don't let people fool you about what Africa as a continent is like in real life. I have so much more to tell about this, but you let me know in the comment section if you want to know what it was like growing up in Kinshasa, in Congo, and also follow for more content.
Let's be honest, Americans were not shocked by iShowSpeed. They were shocked because they were lied to. They were told Africa has no cities, no cars, no internet, just huts and poverty. A YouTuber lands, and there are skyscrapers behind him. Traffic jams louder than New York, fans live streaming in HD, money moving, culture moving, people moving. This isn't a miracle. It isn't Africa developing overnight. This is Africa exposed. The embarrassment isn't Africa. It's the education system, the media, and the stories they are swallowed without question. And now the internet is doing what textbook refused to do. Show the truth in real time.
You know, listen, man. I saw a lot of video of American people, they are crying about what speed is experiencing in Africa. You know, the media shows you like something like very bad in Africa. They show you like the bad thing in Africa. So you don't know what is in Africa. How people living over there, man. They're living in peace over there, man. There's no freedom continent in more than Africa in this world. Never, man. You're gonna never find it, man. Everywhere you go, continent. Africa is the most freedom continent in the world. So I saw you crying, and that's me. You're realizing that the media lied to you. So you gotta wake up, man. You gotta wake up, and you gotta wake up and think about it. Is it worth it to go in Africa or what? So you gotta wake up. So I don't know what you think about Africa. You think that you're gonna find a lion in the sitting room or in the room of somebody? No, man. We got room over there, man. People are not like sleeping in the dust, something like that. So you gotta wake up, man. Wake up, America. Wake up. All European people again, they think, oh man, Africa, no, that is like bad continent, man. Go and visit, man. Go and you will see a lot of culture over there, man. You see some people, some beautiful people over there. Not by the face, but by the action. So you gotta wake up, man. Wake up, man, and stop crying, man. Go over there and visit. You're gonna see. You're gonna find your real family, man. You're gonna find your real family. I tell you that. So that's it. Ciao.
You guys saw IShowSpeed, the biggest streamers of this generation, travel across Africa. What he experienced completely destroyed the lies he has been told. He saw beauty, peace, modern infrastructure, and overwhelming love from the people. In Africa, he was welcomed. And in other parts of the world, he would face racism sometimes and humiliation. That tells you everything. Africa is not violent. Africa is not a hopeless continent. Africa is not what you've been shown. It is time for Africans and black people across the Caribbean, the diaspora, and many parts of the world to stop believing the media narrative. Go and see for yourselves. Travel to Africa. Learn. Witness the truth. Africa is rich. Africa is rising. Africa is progressing. And the world needs to stop lying about the continent of Africa.
Most of the black Americans and even some whites are surprised that Africa has buildings, Africa has car, Africa has people walking on the street, Africa has seas, pools, lakes, and all the and I'm like, what is going on? Is this the same Africa we are talking about? 2026, and Americans or some Americans are still baffled about how people are living in America. I mean, make it understandable to us. You understand? We don't really understand. Watch some of the videos of the people crying and doing the gimmicks of say. Watch out.
Confused, like IShowSpeed's in Africa, and like, how? Like they have Wi-Fi. I never knew that. And like they have cars, houses.
You guys, I'm about to cry. I just heard the best thing in the whole wide world. Africa just made their own internet. And what does that mean? That means they don't need to use any Western servers anymore. They're using all of their own cables. Google doesn't even have access to their internet. Whenever they Google something in Africa, they don't get all of the Western media first. They don't get all of the crap that the West wants you to think about Africa first. They get Timbuktu, they get Mali, they get the empires that were collapsed. They get the magic that they had. They have things in their own languages. The United States can't use their information against them. They can't say, oh, if you want, to access the internet, if you want your schools to have internet, you have to go through us. They can't use their own political algorithms to influence people. They don't have any political or monetary power. All the money they were paying for internet from Google to Google in Silicon Valley, they can keep. That was $50 billion. It was $50 billion they were paying every year to go towards to American shareholders and companies. They get to keep that inside of Africa. And then since that's going to African people and African engineers, you know what that's going to do? Is going to spark more businesses, more infrastructure, more all that. Imagine having $50 billion extra dollars every year. Oh my God, I'm so excited. And so that also now South American people are also looking at, okay, how can we build our own internet? Like people are like, we don't have to be dependent on the West. Like that is all I've been ever wanting, like for not my whole life basically. It's just like, how can we decouple ourselves from the West? Ever since the Scramble for Africa. If you don't know what that is, go freaking look it up. It's disgusting. TLDR is the European. That was them trying to figure out how can they conquer all of Africa. They did that and they broke it apart, and then they put all of their European influence all over everything, and they suppressed and oppressed all the people in Africa through different ways. Until this day, they still have places where they're like mining the cobalt there, mining the gold. They're literally, obviously, you all know, everyone knows, they're stealing all of the resources from Africa, and they're not giving the people who live there a dime. They're not giving them a dime when they get, and then they implant corrupt political leaders who will take cash for themselves and then allow the Western people to exploit the land and the people. Oh, but now they have their own internet. They have their own internet. Like, that is such a big deal. Because but first, they used to have to, every time they did a Google search, it would literally have to go all the way to Silicon Valley and back to Africa. So it was slow. The children there, like, it took them forever to, like, download information. They needed a textbook. Like, but now, like, smaller villages have their own textbooks. They have, like, they have the internet researches in their own languages. Like, it's just like, okay, so much. I'm just like, that is, y'all, is such a big deal. And it's like, it's literally nowhere in the news across Western media, because they don't want people to know that Africa is becoming its own independent continent again. It's like it's doing what it needs to do. It's rising up, finally letting go of the shackles of the Western white man, and they're doing it on their own. They're letting go of dependence. They're not taking on debt. They're doing it on their own, and I'm just like, that is all I've ever wanted for my people. Oh, that's it. I'm just so happy, y'all. This is the beginning. Like, taking control of of our own technology. Wakanda is on the way. Because but Black people are so smart, y'all. First of all, if you don't know about neuromelanin, look it up. Neuromelanin is the melanin in your brain. The more melanin you have, the better your brain works. And Black people have the most melanin everywhere and everything. Black people I don't want this to sound, wrong, but there is a secret sauce that Black people have, that darker skin has, because of evolutionary purposes. That's all I'm going to say. And it's been suppressed for the last 1,000 years intentionally by a certain group of people, because they didn't want the power that was in Africa to rise again. They were jealous. They hated it. They didn't like it. They wanted the things that everyone in Africa had. And so the last hundreds of years, they've been doing everything to have that power suppressed, and it's finally starting to dismantle. And I am just like, ooh, and in my lifetime, that is so exciting. If you've been following me, I'm like, I've been trying to move to Africa, been saving my coins to move to Africa, and now, like, I'm just, like, even more excited. Like, I was excited before this, and I don't even need internet. I just want to be around. I want to be in a country that is majority Black people, governed by Black people, and racism is, like, not a thought, and if it is a thought, it's, like, secondary. It's not something you think about every single day. It's just something that, you hear about every once in a while. I can't wait for that life, and now I'm gonna have that life one day with internet that is not influenced by the West, y'all. One of the biggest reasons why white supremacy is so big in America is because of the media, because every time you go look for information, it is quite literally filtered through whitewashing. Like, it is so hard to not be racist in America, because every piece of information, every piece of media, and every piece of education that you get is filtered through the white man's narrative that they want you to have, the white man's story, the narcissistic story that is America. And so people don't know the truth about anything, especially as it regards to Black people. But they don't have to deal with that anymore. They will be able to tell their own stories. They will be able to pass their own stories out to their children. They will be able to put it in their own textbooks. They will be able to put it in their own data centers. They will be able to monitor it themselves. They will be able to govern themselves. That's all I want, is for Black people to be able to govern themselves. Y'all, Black people will never be free in America as long as we cannot govern ourselves. As long as the white man is governing Black people, as long as the white man is in charge of the resources that Black people get, as long as the white man is in charge of the sovereignty, the sanctity, and the life of the Black population, we will never be free. We will never be free, because they are never, ever, ever going to allow us to be free. So when we can get to a place where we can govern ourselves, be independent truly away from them, we're going to be great. And it's finally happened. Thank goodness.
Where you see the sun ray shining out of Ethiopia is because at that time almost all of Africa was under colonialism except for Ethiopia. So Ethiopia was a shining example of independence. So that's why we have that bright light, because we gave hope. A hope for all Black nations that there is a Black nation that's not been defeated, that actually won a colonial power. and that it's a hope, and this is where Pan-Africanism started.
I never even knew that. Chat, I never even knew that.
iShowSpeed's Africa tour is changing how Americans see Africa. Instead of the old stereotypes, people are seeing real culture, real energy, and real joy. From the streets to the fans, Africa looks alive, modern, and full of talent. Millions of Americans are now seeing Africa through a positive lens. Not poverty, but passion. This tour proves Africa isn't what they were told. It's even better.
This American priest said that Africa only started developing 28 years ago. 28 years ago. This comment is exactly why so many Americans today are so shocked to see Africa on trips or tours. What? Africa didn't just start developing in the late 1990s. The problem is a lot of people only think something counts as development if it looks Western. So if it doesn't look like America or Europe, they assume that it doesn't exist or wasn't advanced. Like, let's not forget that Africa had universities, it had trade routes, it had governments, empires, long before colonization even happened. Have you never heard of Timbuktu, the centers of learning? Have you not heard of Nubia or Mali with globally connected? What? I'm so shocked. So our history just disappeared before 28 years ago or whatever? No, it was interrupted. Why would we be colonized? For what reason? Colonization disrupted our systems.
Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate guys. And as I told you, we have to go back to the 1960s so that we may understand all this story. So that the world should actually stop getting shocked. So, my good people, back in the 1960s, many African countries got independence in quotes. I know you all understand when I say independence in quotes, because that means we only got the flag and the national anthem. We did not get the real independence, right? So when we talk about independence in quote, that means that behind the scenes, we were still tied to our old colonial masters. Our money, our resources, and even our politics were most of the time controlled from the outside, which was sad. But as we speak today, we are in 2026. Things are changing because we are actually seeing what the historians had talked about some years back. The second independence, the real independence now. And it's no, in the second independence, it's not about having flags. It's not about having anthems. It's about having real power. It's about having real choices, you know. African leaders at the moment are saying no to being treated like children. We have all had speeches from back in the day up to now. What African leaders are doing now is that they are making deals that are going to benefit their own people, which is amazing. So probably you may ask yourself, what are these reasons that is bringing in this big change? And probably I want you to understand that what is happening now, it's because of three main factors that you are going to talk about now, which is the people power, more choices, and also working together or trading together. So, on or about people power, I believe that by the year 2050, 2040 there, for every 5 people in the world, 1 or 2 of them will be an African, which is good enough. It's amazing, actually. because that means that we'll be having a huge number of young people who are smart, motivated, and people who want a better future. If you talk about trading together, what Africa wants is, forming our own unions, trade unions, coming together, working together, using our own currencies. That is what we want. Not depending on the West, the colonizers. And again, we want more choices. If you want to build our roads, we can partner with China, India, Turkey, not just one country, If you want military support, we can actually, depend on, or we can work with other partners, not just one of them. So more choices is what is pushing this particular narrative. So why is it that the world is so shocked? Because I know this is the gist now. People want to understand here now. As you all know, the old power, they are not used to hearing the word no, but they are hearing now. If you watch the global trends, if you see the recent, global conflicts, when the West asked Africa to take sides about some issues here and there, most African nations were like, no, we are going to be neutral. What we want now is peace. We want to coexist in peace. We are not going to be pawns in your games, because at the end of the day, we are not benefiting anything from it. So this assertive attitude is new. The West is not used to hearing the word no, neutral, peace. And of course, the rest of the world is being forced to rethink about everything they thought they ever knew about Africa. That is amazing, I can honestly tell you. So, from the clips that you just watched, if you try to interpret everything that was said there, Africa is not just rising. Africa is arriving. And the world is shocked because the old rules no longer applies. I know. Africa wants to build its own table, and it's actually inviting the world to come join them, to come partner with them, but on conditions, that is on equal terms. So guys, I don't know what you think about this particular shift that you are seeing today. Kindly comment down below. Let me know what you think about the video. I truly appreciate your presence. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.